feeling great, man.
Good. I'm glad you're feeling great. Because I'm mad because you were late.
I'm mad you, bro. You see how he put me on blast all the time? Always put me on blast. Him, Ms. Doviak, everybody. They don't care.
It's not putting you on blast.
They don't care.
Keeping you in check.
No,
Difference
ain't no in
between
check.
A
Ain't no in
hater
check. Listen.
and a friend. Haters put you on blast. Friends keep you in check.
I actually like that. I do like that. However, and I had to sanitize myself before I came over here, man. I'm doing all of us a service.
Well, I texted this dude. He was supposed to show up at 2. I texted him like, bro, you always fashion me late. He said, bro, my bad. I'm cutting my nails. Who shows up late to a production to cut their nails?
This is what happens when I'm late. He gets fired up, and we have better content.
I get mad.
This is what it is.
Turn my anger into
Yes,
energy.
this is what happens. This is what we're supposed to do. Fuel.
Yes.
So we talked about.
Just like we want to do in this show. Take our influences, take our pain, take our trauma, and turn it into something beneficial to us and everybody else. Welcome to Mama's Basement.
Oh my Lord. A podcast for outcasts.
You know, I was thinking, like, what a time to be alive. You know, we want to examine our influences. It seems like every few months there's like a big new thing that's hugely influential. Isn't that crazy? Like we can't even keep up.
No, I definitely can't keep up. It's always something new, something big, and we always forget about the last thing so quickly.
Right. It's like we're constantly being put through new waves of influence, new cycles of this is it. Now everybody needs to follow this one thing, or, okay, wait, the news just shifted. There's another thing happening, and it can be much.
It could be a lot. It could be so taxing to try to sift through that and figure out what is true, what is factual, what is real.
But I think I could boil it all down to one thing as far as influence goes and as far as just changing the human race. Can you think of anything more important than the internet?
Well, it depends. Do you want to go before 1960? Because these things still impact us today. You know what I mean? Like, we could talk about mammograms. We could talk about pasteurization. You know what I'm saying? We could talk about so many things, like the Green Revolution in terms of agriculture. So these things were incredibly vital and saved lives. Hell, we could talk about the toilet, sanitation, sewage.
All right,
like all these
Marcus,
things.
You sounded real scholarly, but I feel like you're conflating a lot of things.
Yes, the internet is vital. You know what I'm saying? It seems to have literally engulfed our everyday life today. But we seem to overlook all of those things that have come in the 20th century and even the inventions of the 21st century that have extended and did those things.
There's a reason the internet has overshadowed all of that. Now, in COVID-19 pandemic, all of life seemed to have screeched to a halt except for the internet, which is thriving and flourishing. And, you know, and all of a sudden we're seeing these virtual lives we created for ourselves taking on a whole new dimension because now more of our social life is occurring online than it is face to face. You know, you're like the only dude I see every week. And how are we even pulling this off?
Right.
The internet.
I'm not going to disagree with what you just said. But again, I talked about pasteurization. These things improve the foods we eat. It extends.
Wasn't pasteurization 19th century though?
No. Or I think so.
Yeah.
I think so. Yeah, you're right. It was like 1860, something like that.
So,
but either way, it still impacts our lives today. That's what I'm saying. The very foods we put into our body, it takes part, that's part of the process. So we can't overlook that.
Right. But guess what? I got an article for you that tells you it's all BS. And now I'm just going to start eating raw grass and bark.
Raw grass.
Like, that's the thing. That's what the internet does to people. It warps their minds. It's literally like everything you said is true and important.
Right.
But it doesn't matter if I'm an impressionable,
that's not
influential
true.
person scrolling through the web and all of a sudden my mind has been shaped by what I see, what I read. I mean, the internet has become this like flourishing point for human ideas that we've never seen before. It's so transformative, it's even sparked revolutions. You know, the whole Arab Spring was organized through Facebook groups. In a sense, the internet like democratized power. It democratized information.
I mean, but are you going to sit here and deny that revolutions didn't exist before the internet? Like, people have revolutionized and gotten together and done these things before the internet existed.
But there's a difference. I feel like with the internet, you could put out a tweet, start an event, and you can mobilize hundreds of people without the need for as much resources.
Well, obviously it's easier now, but at the same time, like you talked about, people can get rises or get reveled up or hyped from wrong information. So it's just hard for me. Obviously, I understand the impact of the internet. I understand the impact that it's had, the ability to connect individuals, etc. But like I said, I would never, ever overlook all the things that we seem to see as just basic necessities, things we look at like, oh, thank God it's there. But no, these are things that were invented and have really saved lives. So I just think that's important.
All right, maybe important was a wrong word, but I still think
I think the internet has been the most culturally impactful.
And maybe you and I, the reason why we're taking up different positions on this, I feel like maybe you and I might have had different experiences in relationships with the internet growing up. Like I would characterize myself as an avid internet user, an avid teen child of the internet. Was the internet important to you growing up?
Man, I would honestly say I became more of a user of the internet like late teens, more like late teens, like obviously in
Like
schools.
high school?
Yes, like high school, mid to late teens, maybe like 15, 16 or older. And obviously when we used it in school beforehand, it would be to do like Word documents, PowerPoints, play games.
Only one of those three things required the internet. But yes, I see what you mean. Like
Yes,
yours
right.
was more of a means to facilitate an end. Like you had work to do, you would go on the internet.
Exactly.
So like I think
To do research, things of that nature.
Yeah.
Yes, that's it.
my relationship with the internet started very early on. It started like dial-up days, 1999. I was like a young kid. You could only be on the internet for a limited amount of time during the day because it would hang up your phone lines. Like we lived in an age where your landline was more important than the internet.
Hell yeah.
Now dudes don't even have a landline. But
I miss those landline days.
Really?
Honestly, yes, it was low key fun, man.
It was.
I don't know, man. Just the art of picking up the phone, hanging up. Like when you hung up on somebody, you heard that joint, it would be loud. Like it was cool.
You'd be talking to someone, all of a sudden you'll hear like a third person breathing on the line. Mom! And then you hear boop.
Yes, bro. Yes.
Dude, good times. I still remember my best friend's phone number, landline 0.
Wow.
You just punch that in and they're like, hey, can you play today? But yeah, internet, like early on, you had to go to the internet. Like
Yes.
the internet wasn't there.
Yes.
Like you could have the internet in your house, the dial-up, but it was hella slow. Hella slow, prohibitively so. So really the internet was more accessible like through computer labs. Did you go to computer labs in the library growing
often.
up?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes. And that's where I accessed it the most. If I'm not mistaken, we had a computer in my house. It had to be either the year 2000 or 2001. I think I was 7 or 8.
And did you surf the web then?
I did not surf the web, yo. Honestly, like all I would do is play games. Like my brother would surf the web and do things because again, he's 7 years older than I am.
You're
So
right.
he dove into it, did his things, and yeah, he definitely utilized it for sure.
It's funny you mentioned that because I also had an older brother at the time, and I think if I was a young kid just left to my own devices in the 90s, I would not have discovered the internet. But I had a brother who was also similarly, actually my brother's 7 years older than me too. Holy cow. And I think our brothers went to the same school.
I think so, yeah.
Yeah, they're in the same grade. So, wow, we have that in
Yeah,
common.
we have a mighty deep connection.
Deep. But yeah, so I do remember my brother definitely introduced me to the internet.
Yeah.
Specifically, he introduced me to a website called bonus.com. Anybody remember that growing up? That was where all the games were at. Spent hours on bonus.com, but only when I could go with my parents to the university to use the computer lab.
Got you.
But other than that, we would find our own fun outside of the web.
Yes.
We'd call our friends up, hang out, sometimes just go outside and
Yes.
see who's outside to play. But as I got into middle school and the advent of DSL, where you could be on the phone and the internet at the same time,
Yep.
that's when the game really started to change. Talking AOL Instant Messenger.
Now, if there's one thing my brother did teach me, it was that.
Unbelievable memories on AIM.
I loved it, man. I had a good time. I didn't hop on as much as you did. My brother, he just showed me how to use it, things like that. And I would just use it to try to talk to friends and just try to talk to some girls that I had crushes on in middle school and stuff like that.
Always macking.
You know what I mean? Nah, never macking. Just.
No, every time you tell me about your life, whatever stage it is, it's always like, yeah, I was talking to girls. And, elementary school, pre-K, I was talking to girls. And
That's not true. That's not true. that was what I really used it for. Like I said, I would hop on. He showed me how to use it. Created my username. If I'm not mistaken, I think his was Black Man Jones.
What was yours?
I tried to do something off of that. I think mine was Chocolate Adonis. I always roll with Chocolate Adonis or Sexy Chocolate. One of the two.
At like what, 11 years old?
11, 12?
Sexy chocolate?
I don't know. What's wrong
I
with
wasn't
me?
allowed to say sexy. Haram. What would you do as soon as you enter? Sexy chocolate has signed in.
I would talk to friends, and if I would have the chance of talking to my crushes, I would talk to them, hopefully get their numbers. Basically, whatever my brother did to attract women when he was younger. So if he would just talk to girls on the phone like real smooth, I would try to do the same thing. If he sang to girls on the phone, I would try to do the same thing. You know what I'm saying? And singing Usher, doing things like that. Yeah, so I really tried to do everything he did low key when I was real young.
Was the goal to just have a nice
Get
chat?
the number,
or
yes. Have a nice chat and get the number. That's really it.
Turn it into real world.
Yes, that's it, bro. Get to know them, things like that, and then be able to talk to them at school and out of school. That was it.
I wasn't slick enough to bring those relationships into the real world. My romantic life often started and ended in the chat room. Point
Well,
blank
listen,
period.
same here, man. Don't get it twisted. I never said I was successful. You know what I'm saying?
Okay,
Yeah, I
okay.
never said I was successful.
Yeah, I remember like one of the coolest things ever to me as a middle schooler was one day I signed on AIM and my boy was on and I hit him up. I'm like, yo. And he's like, yo. And he's like, what are you doing? And I'm like, nothing. He's like, yo, you want to see a movie? Sure. And then we both asked our parents for permission to go see a movie. And then all of a sudden, both our families are going to the movie. It was like the first time I made plans online. No phone call, just like straight go home, signed on the web, made plans.
Right.
It was interesting because what the internet did for us is it took our friends from school and we basically had them at home,
Yes.
accessible whenever. And my profile was Monkey Toast 88. And I had a whole origin story.
I would love to hear it.
I was born a monkey in the jungle
Okay.
and I was swinging
Didn't think it was going to start like
on these
that.
vines. And on my 88th vine, I fell into a magic toaster.
Okay.
And when I popped out of the toaster, I was a man. Therefore, I am Monkey Toast 88.
Why the 88?
Because of the 88th vine.
Yes. Okay.
Duh. But the crazy thing is, like, what I realized, starting with our AIM profiles, we started to create unique identities for ourselves online. Think about the power of a name. Like, we don't get to choose our names in life. We are named by others. We're named by our parents. But the first time you sign on and you create a username, you get to choose your own name.
Right.
You ever think about the power of choosing your own name and what that might do for us psychologically, whether it's an AIM profile or whether it's our name in real life?
Honestly, to be real with you, I haven't thought about it till now, till you just brought it up. But yeah, I can see how that can be powerful and impactful for some. I don't know how powerful it could be with us in terms of having Monkey Toast and Sexy Chocolate, but
There's a lot of power in that.
You
Like,
know.
why did you choose Sexy Chocolate? Why not just Mark Labati?
honestly,
Projecting. You were projecting something.
yeah, honestly, I was just projecting what I had learned from my older brother. You know what I'm saying? Just that facade of being confident within yourself.
And did you feel more confident chatting as Sexy Chocolate versus Mark Labati?
Maybe with the first line, but after you get the response, the confidence goes down a little bit.
See, with me, Monkey Toast might seem like simple and innocent, but like I feel
Right.
like maybe I was projecting my entertainer personality. Funny, silly, goofy. The
can see that,
profile comes
yeah.
with it. Like, interestingly, when I introduce myself in the real world as Akram, I don't get the, you're a funny guy. I get the, oh, where are you from? Like, how do you say that? Is that Spanish or English or Arabic? Like, what is that? But online is a whole different game. I'm
Right.
Monkey Toast. You have to understand me through the monkey and the toast. Who am I? I think there's a lot that goes into like choosing our username more than meets the eye. It's for the first time in our lives, the opportunity to self-define.
I like that, and I dig it. I can see how it can mean so much and really exude what people need sometimes. Like even for yourself, like you said, when people see you, they don't necessarily see that side of you. So being able to produce a name of your own volition, to be able to just come up with something that really truly defines you is They're very important.
Yep. And it's one thing for friends, but nowadays a lot of the people we engage with on the internet we don't even know
Right.
So we're meeting people for the first time under these created personas, these created names. And I think there's a lot of power and a lot of freedom in the avatars we create for ourselves online.
Right.
And then like evolving beyond that, like AIM was still, I think, innocuous to influencing me and influencing us because it was a space for us to just communicate with our friends. We weren't getting bombarded with ads. It was just another way to hit up our friends.
Yeah.
But then I started to discover like forums,
Really?
like special interest forums.
Right.
So this is like stuff like Bionicle. I would go to the Bionicle forum, bzpower.com. And then I was a big Prince of Persia fan. So I found a Prince of Persia community and I would chat up people with similar interests.
And you weren't worried about that or anything like that because like even when I was a kid or things like that, even in middle school, like I avoided those things. I never tried to interact with anybody or do any things like that. So were there any worries you had or was it because it was like game forums and things like that? You really didn't have any of those type of worries or what was it?
I mean, I wish I was a little bit more worried.
Yeah.
I probably would have been more cautious because I definitely was exposed to things at a young age that I wish I wasn't.
Right.
But then again, I learned about the harshness of the world through these forums. I learned about, like, I was 11 years old on these forums acting like I was like an 18-year-old.
Right.
Interfacing with people who are over 18, 20,
Right.
22, 23. And
real quick, before you quickly dive in, did your parents know about this or anything? You were hiding this from your parents, I'm assuming?
they were aware, but they weren't like constantly monitoring me.
Okay. Because that was going to be my second question, actually, because say if they did see these things, would they have been able to look through your history, anything like that, be able to check to see what you had actually been on?
Yeah, I don't think so. I think they were just like, basically, they didn't want me on the computer too long. They didn't care much what I was doing. Obviously, if there was like explicit pornography or anything, that would raise an alarm. But, it was just, for them, it was reading, posting, being creative. And I think it has to do with that projection of self because, just being very open and honest, like video games was not celebrated by my family. I'm sure many families are like, why are you gaming? It's a waste of time.
It's frivolous.
Exactly.
Yes.
But online, I could talk about games all day and nobody is going to be like, why are you wasting your time with this? Yeah. So I found ways to express the things that were taboo in my household and they were celebrated online.
Got you. So that's what drew you to these forums.
Right,
yes,
right.
Got you.
But because of that anonymity, nobody knew I was 11. And then every now and then I'd get invited to the private chat room off the forums. And I'd be like, what is bukkake? Oh my God. Don't look that up if you don't know what it is.
I never knew how to say it. Honestly, I never looked into it, anything like that. So the fact that you said you must have looked.
Yes, I was like 12 years old when I learned about that.
That's awful.
It was crazy.
That's awful.
Would I have been exposed to that stuff? Was there no internet? I think definitely not.
Yeah, probably not.
Because I'm a kid.
Yeah.
But they don't know. All they saw was my persona. And at that time, my persona evolved to Dark Knight X. I was mature. I was a valiant warrior. I could handle, the sexual explicitness of this crazy stuff people shared online.
Yeah.
So that's kind of like some of the darker stuff. But on the flip side, I mean, it allowed me to flourish creatively. I had an audience now for my scripts. I had an audience for my short animations, which I would not have had was there no internet. But again, that's like another thing about like, has the internet made us lazy and complacent? Like, if I was making short films and there was no internet, I'd probably put on a screening. I'd probably form meaningful relationships with people in the real world. It would be harder, but I'd actually have faces watching my films instead of anonymous screen names,
You could still hold screenings. You could still do those things, network, and do all those things in addition to doing your things on the internet. It's only going to improve what you're doing. One can really work with the other to facilitate growth. And that's what I feel like we need to lean more towards.
Real world.
Yeah.
But the thing about the real world is there's so much more barriers. Like, that's what I was saying about democratizing. Like, the internet, without any money, you can be a published filmmaker, a published author on the internet. And on the one hand, that's democratizing and empowering, but it's, it's also dangerous. It also
Yes.
creates room for people who have no legitimacy, who had
Right.
no training in a topic to speak on something that they really shouldn't.
Right.
But I mean, as a young kid, for me, that was super empowering. I was creating things. I was getting reviews. I was collaborating with people around the world at 12 years old. Unheard of.
No,
I think.
that's wild.
So what about for you, looking past AOL Instant Messenger? What was like the next evolution in the internet and its influence upon you?
For me, I would then say the MySpace. It was amazing. My page was wild. I don't really want to talk about it, but it was.
What was wild about it?
Well, the music that I chose, I had Splash Waterfalls. Yeah, I had that Luda track. That was my song back then. So
I don't think I've heard it.
Oh,
Give
man,
me a
what-
bar or
Are
two.
you kidding me? I'm not good at singing. My voice is raspy.
You were in choir
That
for
don't-
many years.
That don't mean nothing.
You had to audition. So-
That's true, but
I want to hear Splash Waterfalls.
I don't think. I'm trying to think of the hook, but anyways, it'll be like, oh, make love to me. That's how it would start, right? And so it would play that jank, and I had this supermodel as my background, and just a whole bunch of different pictures and all type of racy outfits and stuff like that, just everywhere on the background. And then my picture was me sitting in a chair with my legs spread, and I had on a wife beater, and I was sitting just like this. I was just like that, and that was my profile pic.
That's quite mature.
Yeah, just a little bit.
Spaces like MySpace, Facebook, like we put in our real names now. It's no longer a username.
Right.
However, I think we're still creating an avatar for ourselves.
Without question.
I mean, there was also the unspoken desire to always put out the best version of yourself
Right.
on social media. Like you obviously wanted to come off a certain way.
I guess so. Yeah, definitely. But
You wouldn't put on your insecurities.
oh, hell nah. I mean, who would? You know what I mean? Like, who would want to tune into that content? Truth be told.
I do.
Yeah.
No, not really.
That's what I'm saying.
And then like mine wasn't as racy, but I definitely had like, I gotta say my profile, I tried to like appear really like deep, like almost superficially. So like I had like the philosopher quote in my bio, you know, I had like the very pensive, I'm pretty sure this was my pose on every profile picture.
Yes. The thinker.
The thinker.
Yes.
You know, it's like that's the personality that I put out through MySpace. But I remember the first time I got caught talking about sex was because my brother logged into my MySpace and read my messages.
Oh, damn.
And I wasn't even talking about like having sex. I was a virgin.
Right.
You know, it was just like another person messaging me saying that they wanted to have sex with someone else. My buddy, I forgot his name. He was like, yeah, yo, so-and-so is so sexy. I just want to do her. And I'm just like, nice. LOL. How? And then my brother read that and he's like, this is horrible. This is horrible. And he started putting up like blocks. Like all of a sudden MySpace was blocked. You know, we're getting away from, you know, the more innocent side of the internet and to the more complicated because our profiles on social media have become such an important part of our lives. Something that I'm really remiss about, my parents used to take me to Syria almost every summer. And it wouldn't just be like a 1-2 week trip. It would be like the whole summer. Like, all right, school's out, we're going to Syria.
Yeah.
We'll come back in September. And I had the worst FOMO every single time I'd go to Syria.
Yeah.
And all of a sudden on my yearly trips to Syria, every single day I would go to an internet cafe and I would spend hours online just chatting people up in the States, you know, to feel a connection to home,
Right.
to feel a connection to my friends who are having the best summer of their lives. Meanwhile, I'm in an exotic country, you know, where I could be connecting with my roots, where I could be exploring, where I could be learning, where I could be seeing ancient architecture.
Right.
Nah, straight to the internet cafe, straight to Facebook, wasting hours and hours.
Right.
What do you think about that?
Well, I'm never here to judge, but it's unfortunate. But at the same time, that's what happens. I feel like because we see everybody having such a good time, that may not even be the case. But because that's what's being portrayed, you feel as though you're missing out on something. And unfortunately, it causes you to actually miss out on whatever you were supposed to be present for. People just won't be present. And I think that's the part that frustrates me the most, is that people don't seem to be as present anymore. There's always something to take somebody away. Always.
No, it's really sad. Definitely, like in retrospect, I'm like, wow, why did I even care to be at the internet cafe for so long while I was in Syria?
Right.
I don't know when the next time I'll even be able to go to Syria is and see it in peace. Like I was there during its flourishing, during its thriving, during its renaissance. Straight to the internet cafe. But I also think that speaks to the kind of impact the internet has had on our psyche. I mean, homesickness is a common phenomenon whenever you
Yes.
travel, except I feel like before the internet, you would maybe send a letter, wait a month to hear back while you're traveling, but spaces on the internet evoke feelings of comfort and feelings of home. Like, I was super homesick, missing out on my summers in Buffalo. So I would go to the internet cafe, and then when I'm logged on, when I'm on Facebook, suddenly I'm seeped in a sense of familiarity. I'm seeped in the sense where like, okay, now my friends are online. I could talk to them. I am not really that far away.
Right.
You think there's any credence to that?
I don't think that's a necessarily bad or good feeling. I think that's a feeling that everybody gets. You know what I'm saying? Obviously, the people you care about, that's what's truly considered home. You know what I'm saying? Like, it's not necessarily a place, because I'm certain if those people were somewhere else, that's where you'd want to be, or that's who you'd want to talk to. So it's not necessarily a place. It's just being in connection with those people that you love, knowing that they're okay, seeing what they're doing, because you miss them. You know
Right.
what I'm saying? You just miss them. And so being able to access the internet and see their face, see what they're doing, they're smiling, and just be able to connect with them, the jokes that you have, etc. All these things, it's really I guess call it an inviting feeling. And it's what people want.
But maybe it is problematic that part of me felt a sense of comfort on the internet that was not extant in the real world, depending on where I was,
Right.
Because like you said, it's an issue of presence. I mean, I think the internet has definitely drawn us away from the present, drawn us away from the real world and its challenges, because escaping is one app away. Escaping is one click, one scroll away.
Right.
Happiness is a like on a photo now. It's you get that endorphin rush, and I think the internet can leave us feeling like we are impacting the real world without actually going out in the real world and having an impact. You might think you've made a difference because you've shared a post and now you have 1,000 likes on your page.
Right.
But how many things have we liked and just scrolled on and forgotten about within the next 20 minutes?
No, I agree.
But I think that speaks to our need as human beings to feel a sense of validation and comfort, because I think the fact that a lot of us lack it in the real world is why we seek it on the internet. Like, I don't think the internet created this problem where we are invalidated as humans in the real world. I think it actually created a solution to that problem that just kind of morphs and has tentacles and brings with it a host of other problems. Like my personality as a gamer was not validated at home. I would have loved to just talk Prince of Persia with my brother, with my mom. There wasn't a space for that. So I found that space online, and that part of me felt validated and nurtured. And I think while we look at it as a draw away from reality, maybe for a lot of people, it's a antidote to the pain that they feel in reality. I know that for me, I've often felt more noticed online than I have felt in the real world.
Right.
Growing up, even nowadays, I create content to be seen on the web. would I have that ability to do so at the pace that I'm doing so without the web? I don't know. But then again, with that also comes the added pressure. Now all of a sudden you feel like you need to create because there are creators out there who are publishing stuff every single day,
Right.
every single week. So where it filled this gap in my life and gave me this opportunity to be seen and be heard, it also amplified the pressure, on my shoulders. All of a sudden, I'm a voice being drowned out in a sea of millions of voices online.
Right.
Whereas having a screening, even with 5 of my close friends, could gratify me and satisfy me in a way that no amount of likes can.
I love where you're going with this, and I'm gonna break it down into 2 parts and ask you a few questions. So starting with the gaming, you said you had no one else around to talk to. So I was just gonna say, what about like your friends, like in the neighborhood and things like that? Because I think that's the biggest difference between you and I in terms of games and stuff like that. I felt like I didn't necessarily have the need to go online or seek forums to where I would need that validation. So I guess my question is, why was that not available to you per se? Because you said not your brother, but I'm certain there were kids around your age that
No.
you know what I mean?
Yeah. I don't want to mischaracterize like my childhood as being completely lonely.
Right,
Because
yeah.
I did have that.
Right, so,
I did go
okay.
to my boy's house. We did play GameCube, And like, in fact, 2 of my best friends ended up joining me on the Prince of Persia forums. And we ended up like just rocking it on the forums together.
Right.
So like, it wasn't a completely lonely existence. But
Okay.
I'm talking specifically within the space of my home.
Okay. I get
where
what you're saying.
I was not the same. Who knows? Maybe it's the reverse. Maybe it's actually the internet which impeded my ability to form more meaningful relationships with my family members.
Maybe.
Maybe instead of working through the challenge of not being accepted and saying like, no, this is why this game is important to me. In fact, watch this, Mom, because you ain't got no other choice. Like the fact that I could just go online and
Right.
and feel that validation there, maybe it infringed upon my ability to address these challenges in the real world. So I don't know what came first, the chicken or the egg. Did my alienation at home force me to depend on the internet?
Right.
Or did my dependence on the internet make me more alienated at home?
Nah, that's a good question though. And I guess my perspective to the second part would be more so of it fostered this sense of instant gratification. I know you talked about like, now there's millions of people who can now like produce and things like that. I think the biggest thing that happened, the boundaries were now blurred between producer and consumer.
Yes.
Like with the internet, like that's what really changed. And we talk about that in terms of information being disseminated, in terms of content being produced. Now it really is just anybody. And in that same vein, it's produced that mindset of that instant gratification, that right now attitude. But I think it's really glossed over the fact that anything that's worthwhile, as you've been told, since like the beginning of time, or at least beginning of your life, takes time.
Absolutely. The internet has 100% amplified the idea of the overnight success.
Yes.
And with that comes the flip side, which is the persistent failure.
Yes.
Now having published, dozens of videos, whatever, and none of them going viral, I could very easily fall into this trap where it's just like, why do I suck? And I can't lie. I mean, that voice has been definitely in the back of my head.
It's natural.
Whereas I think with less connectivity, there's less comparison, But the question is like, it's almost like Pandora's box or even like Matrix. It's almost like swallowing the pill. It's like we have this power, this connectedness, but with that comes the price, which is the comparison, the propensity to doubt yourself while comparing yourself to other successes. And also the very real impact it has on our interpersonal relationships.
Yes.
The impact on our attention span. Nowadays, if you're going to publish a video, try to keep it under a minute, 2 minutes,
Right.
because you're going to get swiped past. And that translates to having real conversations in the real world where, someone might be talking to me and then all of a sudden I notice myself trailing off
Right.
too soon.
Yeah.
You know?
Have you ever been talking to somebody and they've kind of had a long answer and you just thought in the head like, oh my God, when are they gonna stop talking? Like,
Oh, man.
and I hate when I have those
When's the
thoughts.
title card gonna come on? And just swipe it next. Come on.
Like seriously, you know what I mean? Like it's crazy.
Yeah, I mean, the internet has definitely impacted our attention span. And I know there's research behind this. Like, I'm speaking anecdotally, but I can almost guarantee you that research has found that internet and the attention span and just the idea that we can scroll. Like, when you're scrolling, you're literally seeing hundreds of streams of ideas, hundreds of thoughts, hundreds of people flash before your eyes. We don't even read the full status anymore. We don't even look at the full. We don't even click the article that gets shared that has pertinent information that can affect our lives. People don't read anymore. People don't actually immerse themselves in content.
People want tidbits, cliff notes, things of that nature, you know?
So it's ironic that the internet, which is a space which could really...
I mean, if you look at like any books or any articles or things like that talk about the internet when it was first trying to be, it was about having basically an inventory of knowledge. Like they speak about it so that they can have that information available. Like they talk about it in such glowing terms. Like we need this. It will benefit society. Just having that information readily available, being able to transmit between, obviously at first it was universities, laboratories, etc. And the way it's turned into now, like it still does that, but like we talked about, because that line is blurred between, you know, consumer and producer, any information out there, like it really has to be read and really thought through and really look for the sources. Except like it's crazy, man.
You just reminded me of this like Netflix special, and I want to play you a clip of it. This is Ronnie Chang, Asian comedian destroys America.
Every year, America becomes more and more hipster. Starting to bring back organic small batch diseases. Because all these stupid anti-vaccination idiots reading some bullshit on the internet, getting brainwashed, not vaccinating their children. Yo, the internet is making people so fucking stupid. Like, who knew all of human knowledge could make people dumber? Like, in 50 years, we're gonna look at the internet the same way we look at smoking right now. It's gonna be like, man, I can't believe 50 years ago, we just let pregnant people use the internet. What were we thinking?
Yo.
Pregnant people were just using the internet. We use the internet in front of babies. We let babies use the internet. Yeah, in 50 years, we're gonna have special areas outside buildings where you can use the internet. Internet designated zones 50 feet from every entrance. Don't bring that internet indoors. Secondhand stupidity is the real killer.
Do you agree with what he said? The internet is making us dumber?
You know me, man. You know I'm never gonna just generally say that. But I do think there's segments and factions of the internet who buy into that. I'm gonna coin a term from this debate show that I like, but low quality information. And that's just what it comes down to. And don't get it twisted, these low quality information sites look pretty damn real. They be having all types of stuff. They be trying to make it look as real as possible. And trust me, it's easy to get sucked into that. But yes, I do feel like certain segments of the population, certain factions, definitely, without question, because unfortunately they've been subject to low quality information, or any ideas or thoughts that they haven't opened themselves up to legitimate debate to challenge those ideas. So there's no way they can truthfully learn.
Yeah. I mean, and this is an age-old problem. There's been propaganda. There's been misinformation since the dawn of humanity.
It's just been accelerated. Because I mean, like we've talked about all day, like the acceleration of everything is what we're really talking about. Like the impact has just been further accelerated because of the internet, because of its speed.
Before, to get misinformation, you actually have to go out, subscribe to a newsletter, meet other people. Now you just one click at freedomnow.com. COVID was created by Joe Biden. Did you see this? Like,
oh my God.
I definitely fell victim to it growing up. Like, the whole Illuminati, Freemason, conspiracy web. I was deep into that. And not gonna lie, you know, there's some funky symbolism, but is there a global conspiracy of Masons to dominate us all. I mean, if there is, they're doing a hell of a great job. Kudos. But that's a lot of time that I wasted that could have been spent actually learning something productive.
Right.
Well, nowadays, research itself is reduced to Google. Before, if you wanted to be knowledgeable about something, you got to go to the library, you got to crack open a book, you got to read through the introduction, you got to read through chapter 1. Now
Cross-reference with encyclopedias
Right.
and all types of stuff.
But now, like, we can get the answer to any question with a search, and that just makes us lazy.
Yes.
Like, dudes,
It limits the thought process.
I had a friend over the other day arguing with my doctor friends about infectious diseases, like citing things he's read online. Like, you're talking to people who've spent 8 years,
Right.
undergraduate and graduate studies, learning medicine, and you want to come with a Google search and debunk them? It's crazy.
Yeah, it just, like I said, that line is now blurred. People really believe their own thoughts. Like,
Because it's being validated by the web. So dang. So while the validation may have nurtured me, little boy, nurtured my creativity, for a lot of people, it's nurturing the worst ideas of humanity.
Right.
What we're unearthing is not a problem with the internet. It's a problem with our nature that the internet amplifies. And I think if I were to pare away what the essence of the internet's impact on our human experience is, amplification of aspects of ourself, which we would not exert in the public discourse, in public life. I mean, another one of the most harmful things to me and to many young men is the proliferation of pornography on the internet.
Right.
You know, the access, the ability to have free, high quality pornography at your fingertips. That's a challenge that I feel like every young man has faced in their life and has become desensitized to sexual experiences
Right.
as a result. And, you know, the internet for pornography, for sexuality, for fringe ideas becomes this space where the things that are unspoken in society can flourish and thrive in the dark crevices
Yes.
of the internet. You know, you could really see the most disgusting shades of humanity finding a home and being celebrated online.
Right.
I don't know if you've consumed porn or how much of it you have. Have you?
Yes,
Let's
yes,
be
in the
open here.
past. Yeah, definitely.
Yeah, same. And the things that are shown in porno ain't real life. It ain't real life. And either you got to learn that and come to that on your own, or you're going to find out and it's not going to be pleasant.
Right.
You know?
right. I completely agree in what you're saying about pornography, and as it pertains to the dark crevices of the web. It's unfortunate, and the part that I wanted to talk about was the fact that, like, it just sucks that the internet accelerated and brought to the forefront how many individuals are really that sick and perverse, because I feel like most people, they don't necessarily think about it, but in the back of their minds they know, but they think, oh, it can't be happening that much. But if you were ever to venture and look and see, like, these things have millions of views.
It's so sad.
And so I agree with you. Unfortunately, like you talked about, with the good comes the bad, and in this sense it's the deplorable.
And the thing is, like, you don't have to be an inherently sick person to find these things on the internet and find curiosity in
gosh.
them and to explore them and to be tainted by them. Like,
Right.
you know, I came from a Muslim family, good roots. You know, I was a virgin my whole life till I met my first girlfriend who became my wife. Like, I should have been immune to that influence,
Right.
but it's right there.
Yeah.
And then I kind of want to switch gears though to like the more positive stuff, because while the internet legitimizes some of the most deplorable things in our
Yes.
nature, it also gives opportunity to people who don't have it. I mean, there's an interesting Pew Research study that determined that the internet has a positive impact on education and a negative impact on morality. So it's interesting how there's more knowledge, more accessible knowledge out there. Like people who don't know a skill or a trade can learn a skill or a trade through the web. Granted, it won't be the same as having a teacher, and I think that's where some of the dangers come in with the internet when we start to supplant real experiences with virtual ones, But for those who don't have access to a teacher, the internet is there for you.
Yeah. It's a great place to just get informational knowledge. And so these are the positive things that we do need to illuminate.
Do you think the internet makes us more connected or more divided?
I think overall it does connect us more. I do. Yes, I know there's a lot of trolls, haters, people denigrating others, defamation, all types of things that you can find on the internet, fights, all types of things, just horrible, horrible things. But in the same breath, individuals are able to connect with somebody halfway across the world. You know what I'm saying? So these are the type of things that often get overlooked. And I know we talk about disinformation and low quality information, but we've taken a lot of information from the internet and used it for good, And so I just think overall there has been a lot of good, and I truly do believe that it has brought us closer together. I think there's a lot of kinks that need to be worked out, but overall, yes, I do think it connected us more.
And the reality is the internet is not going away. It's going in the opposite direction. It's becoming more and more prominent in our lives, especially in the midst of this pandemic. Internet use has ballooned, I think increased 90%, almost doubled.
That's crazy.
We're living more and more of our lives online. So one of the biggest challenges for the human race, I think, moving forward is going to be navigating our relationship with the internet. And if we're unable to form a healthy relationship with the internet, I honestly feel like we're better off without it. More recently, and more, I've become more and more critical of my relationship with the internet. Hamza Yusuf, he was asked, what would be your advice for navigating these trying times? He said, put your phone down. Yes, the world is going through a lot and we need to stay informed. But do we need to be informed every minute and every second of every day?
No, the 24-hour news cycle has been... I never agreed with that innovation
Toxic.
whatsoever. I do not like that.
Chances are your life is just fine. And if you don't log on to the web, you're not going to know that,
right?
There's federal agents in Portland kidnapping people off the streets.
Wild as hell.
We need to know these
We do
things.
need to know about those things for sure. Absolutely.
I'm not saying put your head in the hole, but
never that.
How can we find a healthy relationship with the immediate present in front of us?
Well, I agree with that. See, that's my thing. I definitely want to say get rid of the internet, but I would say we have to do a better job of educating the masses on finding a healthy balance of being a consumer of the internet and finding time away from it so that you can be present in everyday life.
Clock out the web. Seriously.
Damn near, if you can.
Set web times.
Right.
It's better for you.
Yeah.
It's like a hammer, I guess. You can use a hammer to build a house. You could use it to bash someone's face.
Bludgeon them, yep.
So the internet is the hammer of our times.
It's the tool, yeah. That's what it really comes down to. Human civilization's ability to adapt. That's literally what has been able to keep us alive so far.
Overall, in my life, the internet has had a positive impact because I've been able to share these stories through the web. I've been able to hear other people's stories through the web. Been able to meet people. First time I messaged Kelly was on Facebook. I didn't have her number yet.
Right.
So I guess I did do the Mark Labati sexy chocolate move and get the number through the web. But I mean, on the whole though, I do wish I was a little bit smarter, and there are things I could have done without.
Right.
But I think as is with the internet, such as life, just kind of got to brace yourself and always have a plan.
Yes. I'm so happy you said that. A lot of people nowadays, like we talked about in the beginning, unfortunately, everybody wants it right now. The truth is, you need a plan, you need a vision, stick to that plan, set goals.
Even with the internet.
Yes.
Otherwise, the internet's going to have a plan for you. And you're going to end up on wayfair.com.
Yo, what is your problem? Yeah.
Thank you so much for tuning in to Mama's Basement on the web. Where we want you right here with us.
Yes.
Appreciate you.
Now, remember, make sure you tune in to our channel. Make sure you subscribe. Make sure you comment on this video and like it as well for a chance to win the Kindle Unlimited.
Another powerful internet invention. Books at your fingertips. And for those listening, if you can give us a rating on the podcast app, whether it's Apple or Spotify, that would actually go a long way towards helping us reach a broader audience. So if you like the show, give it a rating. If you didn't like the show, just close the app. It's fine. Don't worry about it. We forgive you. But thank you.
Thank you so much, guys. Thank you for tuning into Mama's Basement.
Toodles.